Videos like these are made possible by viewers like you, who support the channel through Patreon, channel memberships, and stream donations. And don't forget to check out the Bad Weapon Rehabilitation servers at www.badweaponrehab.tf. Check the links in the description for more information, and let's get into the video. I love video game challenge runs, and I also love dinosaurs. Now, by combining these two interests of mine together, we can reach unbridled levels of tism hitherto unknown to man, God, and science. At least that's the best explanation I can come up with for why I decided I was going to try and get 5 stars on a challenge mode park in Jurassic World Evolution 2 without cloning a single dinosaur. And not just any challenge mode, I've chosen Jurassic difficulty challenge mode, the hardest in the game, with some of the toughest settings I can manage that don't make the game outright unbeatable. I put the code up on screen and in the description so you can try this challenge yourself if you want. Now, how is this even going to be possible? It's not like you see dinosaurs walking down the street when you go to 7-Eleven, unless you count, like, pigeons or something. They've been dead for kind of a while. So don't you have to clone them? Well, thanks to the decision of one stupid little girl and the neglect of all the stupid adults in the room with her, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom made it so that there's dinosaurs just straight up all over the world now. And Jurassic World Evolution 2 actually follows up on that better than the goddamn sequels to the movie that established this in the first place. I'm still mad! While you can send out expedition teams to go collect dinosaur fossils, you also have the option to get notifications for when wild dinosaurs are found out in the world. So you can find a herd of Kentrosaurus in North Dakota, an Allosaurus in Big Rock, or a Kronosaurus out in the waters off of San Diego, the greatest city on Earth. And on certain maps, there will be wild dinosaurs walking around that you can capture yourself straight away, just like on the map I've chosen. I'll eventually come to regret this map, but we'll get back to that. For now, let's begin, and find out if this challenge is even possible. Right out of the gate, there's a flock of Struthiomimus palling around with some Pseudoceratops right outside the area where I want to set up my initial base of operations. So this is perfect for a first exhibit, and I get started setting up my operations buildings right away. Now, the unfortunate thing is that I need to tranquilize the dinosaurs before they actually count towards my park's dinosaur population. And the Pseudoceratops has a trank rating of 5, while my tranks only have a rating of 1. I'm not getting good darts for several more stars, so this is something to consider for not only these dinosaurs, but any future ones I come across. If their rating is too high for me, then an escape could be disastrous since I'd have no chance of neutralizing them as a threat. Unless I want to go all Jurassic World finale on the escapee, but then I think that just leaves me with more problems than I started off with. For now, I'm playing things fast and loose and just construct a barrier fence around the herd so they won't terrorize the guests. Even if the Pseudoceratops won't count towards my population and rating, that's no big deal. The Struthiomimus are good enough to start off a park by themselves. One of the upsides about this challenge is that I don't have to worry about researching new dinosaur species, and I don't have to worry about the genetics rating on my scientists. Welfare and logistics are the only things that matter when you aren't cloning anything. However, my staff are constantly mutinous, and anything I ask them to do increases my park's sabotage rating. If I'm not paying these people $15,000 a month to sit on their asses and do nothing but eat Twinkies all day, they're not happy to see me. Anyway, there's more dinosaurs in the untamed wilderness of the park still left to see, so I fly around and happen upon a group of Amargasaurus, a species I can thankfully tranquilize. This is a great sauropod to have because they're small and very low maintenance compared to their giant cousins. All I have to do is throw in some extra ground fibers into the existing exhibit and they're good to go. And just as I'm done wrapping up their capture, I get my first notification for wild dinosaurs. A herd of Kentrosaurus out in Fargo, North Dakota. Now unfortunately I can't just stick these guys into the main pen I already have. Ceratopsians and Stegosaurs don't get along, so I have to make something new. That's alright, I'll get more use out of this pen later. I get work started on the second exhibit, and if you're here for my Megapark build video, I may have to disappoint you when I say that my challenge mode builds are a lot more, let's say, utilitarian. If the Megapark was a luxury resort for the dinosaurs, then these are more like commie blocks. And they'll be just as packed to bursting by the end of this, believe me. If I had the time, then I'd make things look prettier, but hey, that money count isn't getting any higher, and more importantly, my dinosaurs ain't getting any younger. And that's going to be an extremely big deal later on. Soon enough, the Kentrosaurus arrive, and not long after, I get my next capture opportunity. Ah, Ceratosaurus. Well, better luck next time, I guess. Okay, despite my status as a resident Allosaurus fanboy, this reaction is not due to an inherent hatred of Ceratosaurus. I basically can't get any carnivorous dinosaurs until I reach 2 stars of fame, because that's when I unlock carnivore feeders. Now, if I were allowed to clone dinosaurs, then I wouldn't mind cooking up a few Struthiomimus every now and then to, let's say, sacrifice themselves for a greater cause, but needing to rely on captures just to feed a dangerous carnivore I can't even reliably tranquilize if nothing good comes up to feed it, not to mention feeding my precious stock to it in the first place, yeah, I may as well feed him solely on my guests at that point. It's tempting, but carnivores this early on are nothing but a trap. Patience is a virtue. However, this does mean I have to make it all the way to 2 stars on nothing but the randomly selected herbivores that the game dictates I can have. So this is going to be rough. Well, the dinosaurs may be living in commie blocks, but I'm still running a free market enterprise here. And that means overpriced commodities for our guests, and god damn it, the terrain. This is why I regret picking this map. I should have gone with a flat version. I thought that the regular terrain would add to the challenge, but all it did was succeed in making my park aggressively ugly as time went on, because I just don't have the funds to flatten everything. Well, entirely too much time and money later, I get something that looks almost serviceable, and oh dear god, it's a storm. Now I'm gonna stop being worried about these and just start getting annoyed by them later on down the road, but now that I'm at this point of financial instability, a storm is just about the last thing I need. Luckily, I'm not on a map with any twisters. Maybe that could be an interesting and infuriating addition to your own challenge if you decide to try this out. But I still have to deal with my dinosaurs getting injured, my guests getting grumpy, and my buildings being damaged, along with the driving controls during storm conditions. But it's all worth it in the end, because as soon as the storm clears up, I can get some Dryosaurus. Hell yeah. Well, someone in my staff seems to think so too and wants a closer look at the newly arrived Dryosaurus themselves, because they sabotage the gates and the little bastards almost make a break for it. Also, during all this chaos, it turns out my Kentrosaurus wasn't injured from the storm. It was actually ill and ended up dying. That's really bad for my surviving Kentrosaurus, since now it's lonely and is going to start acting out, especially during storms. I managed to squeeze in a paleomedical facility to scope things out and hopefully prevent future outbreaks. But luck is on my side, and I get a great call. A herd of Muttaburrasaurus in New Orleans. Perfect. They'll get along great with the Dryosaurus. And before I can even get those ones, I get another call for another herd of Muttaburrasaurus in Australia, actually. Oh, that's fitting. Well, more the merrier. My disease problems are not over yet. As it turns out, one of my Struthiomimus is infected with rabies. Yeesh. Well, honestly, it's a good thing I caught this as early as I did. If I could only start researching the cure once it had infected a big theropod, we'd have been in some serious trouble. While researching the cure, I come across another herd of Dryosaurus, which is fantastic, but the lone Kentrosaurus is seriously not doing well by itself, and I have to make the tough call to sell it and avoid any further problems. It sucks to lose an entire species like that, but that's what I get for not getting medical treatment sooner. This one's on me. Well, things go slow for a while, but then the fates give me a chance to redeem myself by giving me another chance at Kentrosaurus. I won't let them down this time. Another 2 captured. It's like they never left. And as if that wasn't enough, now we get another new species with Nodosaurus, a perfect fit for the opening pen. This is great since every new species I get gives me more opportunities to get my star rating up by whittling away at the species variety penalty. The only issue is, I have to hope that I get species I can actually manage, and I have to hope they're new. Otherwise I can't guarantee anything. For example, right after another storm, I find another herd of Kentrosaurus out in Oakland. I'm glad I'm getting the chance to do right by the Kentrosaurus I failed earlier, but at a certain point, I just need new blood. How about this next call? Alright, I see where this is going. Luckily, either through the addition of yet more Kentrosaurus or my expansions to the park's infrastructure, I'm able to bring my rating up over 1 star and expand the pool of species I have access to so I can start seeing some new faces in the form of Polacanthus. Nice. Now I do need to build this guy a new enclosure since he won't get along with the existing Nodosaurus or Kentrosaurus in the other pens, so I get started on that. At least I will after this storm passes and I fix up everything that just got damaged. Yeah, don't you hate it when that happens while you're driving? And just like that, our other pointy boys arrive. But we can't linger on that too long because we have a massive tuberculosis outbreak going on right now that we have to fix fast. Look at how many sick dinosaurs there are. The entire second pen is infected, and there's no way the vet will be able to handle all of them in time before they die. I tried taking matters into my own hands, but it's just too much all at once. This is like the dinosaur Black Plague, it's that bad. And what's worse is that it's spreading over to the first pen. All I can do is pray that the vets can take care of this in a timely fashion, but I'm seriously getting worried about casualties. It's even hard to celebrate the arrival of the new Torosaurus I just found when I'm at risk of bodies piling up in the streets. But I thankfully managed to contain it with no deaths. But this won't be the last we hear of tuberculosis in this park. If you thought this was difficult to manage, oh just you wait. Well, after the game throws yet another storm at me, we finally get some Pseudoceratops to actually add to our population count. It's about time. After all this stress, it's nice to take a short break and just watch the dinosaurs enjoy themselves. This is all for them, after all. I've taken them out of a dangerous environment and given them a peaceful life where— holy crap, that Nodosaurus looks like it has a freaking sunburn. I don't know they got that red. The third pen is still looking a little barren with only Polacanthus and Torosaurus in it, so it's lucky that I find a flock of Gallimimus to give them some company. Yet another species to add to the roster. I end up building a tour in the initial pen for the extra ratings and for transport, and there's another minor tuberculosis outbreak that's dealt with relatively quickly. I'd get the inoculation for it if I could, but unfortunately it's locked behind my park being at 2.5 stars, so I need to expand before I can get there. But trust me when I say that's a double-edged sword. Anyway, I get a few more duplicate species, some more Dryosaurus, some more Pseudoceratops, before finally getting something new in the form of Stygimoloch, another great addition to the Torosaurus enclosure. I'm working on upgrading my amenities since my guests are starting to get antsy when I get more diseases, more sabotage in the form of guest protests, and a few minutes later, another storm. And my reward for surviving all of this without losing my hair in the process is a lagoon animal that I can't even get until I reach 2 stars. Great. Thanks. Well, at least I get access to Corythosaurus afterwards. Even if it is my least favorite hadrosaur in the game, I won't turn up my nose at a new herbivore species. Things are still going pretty slow right now, but once I can start taking advantage of all the captures the game is giving me, they'll really pick up fast. At the very least, I set up a zipline for some extra thrill seeker score and transportation points, and then I get yet another Nodosaurid that justifies the creation of an entirely new enclosure with Minmi. Listen, if there's an Ankylosaur in the game that'll do that for, it's this adorable little goober. I love him so much. And then, right as I'm plopping down my favorite Ankylosaur in the game, who shows up to give them some company but my favorite Hadrosaur, Edmontosaurus. That's serendipity if I've ever seen it. I ain't complaining at all. Welcome to the family. We're not quite at 2 stars yet, and we're not really close to getting the required species count we need, but the park is really starting to come together now, and god damn it, I can't take Dimorphodon right now. Go away! I'm not really expanding at all right now. I'm mostly just micromanaging, trying to get my profits and income as high as possible to finally get my rank up to 2 stars. Taking care of any welfare issues, amenity coverage, anything that'll finally tip those scales over. And it's the addition of some new Pseudoceratops that finally manages that. And my reward now that I can finally get some carnivores in here is another Nodosaurid. Alright then, time for a new enclosure. Well, as I'm building that new enclosure, I finally get a call for my first carnivore. I mean, it counts. It's not great, but it counts. I also start work on researching lagoons and aviaries so that I can get started on collecting those species. Some of them will be instrumental in my ratings, so I need to get on that. Speaking of ratings, would you believe it's yet another Ankylosaur species? I'm pretty sure this mechanic uses a limited pool of species, since there were plenty that I never saw in this whole challenge, but I'm almost certain that every single Ankylosaur species in the game is part of this pool. If they actually put in every single Ankylosaur over something like T-Rex, then that's just downright shocking. Well, anyway, I put down some lagoon sections for a contract I've been waiting on for a while now, and who should show up as soon as I place down the final section but the giant dolphin boy himself. Hell yes, I want some Shonisaurus in this park. Unfortunately, as new life begins, old life ends. And 2 of our Struthiomimus drop dead from old age. Beginning the process I've been most terrified of in this park. The Jurassic World Evolution Death Spiral. See, some people are able to crack this game's logic open like an egg and beat a Jurassic difficulty challenge like this in a couple of hours, no sweat. I am not one of those people. I need time, and lots of it. And there comes a time in just about every park, once you start playing it for long enough, where dinosaur lifespans can't keep up with how often you put out dinosaurs, especially on harder difficulties where money is tight and doesn't come in frequently. And you enter a death spiral that's very difficult to recover from, since your rapidly dwindling dinosaur population is taking away your ratings, and your money, and your ability to produce more dinosaurs. Now, if I were cloning dinosaurs, I could give them the lifespan extension gene and be good to go for way longer. But that's not an option. And with my pool of dinosaurs being random, replacing dead ones is largely cost-free, but it isn't so simple a process. So the populations of certain enclosures may cycle a bit as species come and go. Well, as the 5 Shonisaurus I caught are being lowered in, guess what I find next? A goddamn Kronosaurus of all things. You may as well ask me if I want to install a money printing machine in my park. I only managed to catch 1 out of the 4 I find, but trust me when I say that's a blessing, as you'll soon see. And from a giant swimming murder monster, we then find a tiny little goblinoid creature. Well, you can go make friends with the Minmi and Edmontosaurus little goblinoids. Ah, speaking of goblins, I'm not making extra room for these, I'm sorry. Well, things are looking good for us now. At least, they were, because it's about to begin the tuberculosing. It starts off innocently enough, as innocently as tuberculosis can be, with a Kentrosaurus contracting the disease. Not a big deal, we've had minor outbreaks before that were dealt with quickly, but this time was very, very different. It rapidly spread to the other dinosaurs in the enclosure. All the Kentrosaurus, Muttaburrasaurus, Dryosaurus, and then even worse, it started spreading faster than I could even keep track to other enclosures. The Nasutoceratops exhibit, the entire Torosaurus pen was infected, and even the Shonisaurus weren't safe. And what's worse is that I just spent all my money on Lagoon Viewing Gallery research as this was happening because I thought this would be manageable. All the other outbreaks were, but no, this was so bad, and so much more than a single vet could deal with. The expansion of the park, all the new species, all the duplicates, it was all tinder on the giant bonfire that is my park going up in the flames of God's cruel design. Maybe you think I'm being overdramatic, but this is such a perfect storm of things going wrong. My misplaced spending, the rampant disease, my staff are mutinous, and wouldn't you know it, here comes a storm as if I didn't have enough problems. Now my dinosaurs are dying because my vets simply can't get to them all in time. I'm constantly in the red and I have to take a lot of photos to just try and crawl myself out of this hole, but I'm still hemorrhaging money just as much as my dinosaurs are hemorrhaging blood from their lungs. Not helping, Monolophosaurus! I'm barely able to scrape up to a point of profitability, but it's just not enough because the dinosaurs are diseased, which hurts my welfare rating, which hurts my park rating, which hurts my income, and all of this means it's going to be even harder to get the inoculation, even if I do manage to get out of this, since it's still locked behind that 2.5 star rating. Now I'm back down below 2 stars again. Great. The bodies are piling up in the streets like it's the freaking Dark Ages, and my staff seem to think I don't have enough to worry about, so they throw a guest protest into my lap for good measure. Thanks, assholes. It gets to the point where even the game can't keep track of how many corpses there are for me to clean up, which will only make my disease problems worse. Entire populations of dinosaurs have been completely wiped out, and now even my Kronosaurus is sick. I have to fold. I know when I'm beaten, and in 10 short minutes, the game has beaten me. So I load up a save just before the outbreak. You may think that's cheap, but you know what? So is tuberculosis. Just ask Edgar Allan Poe. Oh wait, you can't. Wanna know why? Yeah, tuberculosis. But if you thought that was the end, oh no, that was just round 1. Even though I can go back before the outbreak, I can't prevent it from happening. It's inevitable. All I can do is prepare for the worst. I consider this particular outbreak to be the boss fight of this challenge run. You ever play the game Plague Inc., where you play as an infectious disease that tries to wipe out all of humanity except for those punk-ass cowards on Madagascar? Well, this is what it would be like if you got to play as humanity in that game. My micromanaging of amenities feels so quaint by comparison to one of the literal horsemen of the apocalypse descending onto my theme park. It's hard to celebrate the arrival of our new pair of Camarasaurs because hey, guess what boyos? The fucking end times are upon us. I try to take matters into my own hands since I trust my aim a lot more than the AI's, but it's just not enough. This is like if cockroaches were a disease, it just keeps popping up. Look at this, every time the vet cures one, it's like 2 more get sick to take its place. This is impossible to keep up with. Things continue to get out of hand with sabotage fences and sick dinosaurs everywhere as we get our next set of captures, a pair of Plesiosaurus. And as I see just how uncontrolled the situation is, I finally make the call I should have made a very long time ago to simply make a second paleomedical facility, and I'm rewarded for my stroke of belated genius with an opportunity to catch some Ichthyosaurus. Unfortunately, I do still suffer some casualties since I wasn't fast enough on the second medical center. Some of the Stygimoloch in the Torosaurus pen didn't make it, but the game at least assures me that I won't run out of Minmi anytime soon, which is a much needed morale boost. Although one of my Plesiosaurus immediately dies, like instantly from his illness. I think negative morale wins, guys. However, that Plesiosaurus was the final death to tuberculosis in this park. A few minutes later, only a handful of dinosaurs are left with the disease, and just like that, we finally make it to 2.5 stars and can research the inoculation. Once and for all, ending the tuberculosining. Now that I'm finally recovered from that, I can focus on the dinosaurs again. Giving the Camarasaurus a bit more space, and here comes another storm. Great. And the shelters are down. Great. This game has a sense of humor, let me tell you. Well, I'm just about done cleaning up the mess that the storm left, and oh my fucking god, drop everything. I want those birds right now. Now this is a carnivore. Now we're cooking with gas. Well, yet another storm. Seriously, I think these things come every 15 minutes on the dot or something. It decides that I can't have anything nice without there being a catch to it, so it breaks the gate to their enclosure. But I'm just a bit too fast, and before they can get out and wreak havoc, I lock them in with some quick thinking and fence placement. Storms 57, fish 1. Well, after that, a few more duplicates and a bit more micromanaging, we finally make it to 3 stars. You'd think we're in the home stretch of this challenge, but trust me, we're just getting started. This is the point where things generally start to slow down for my parks. I clean up some dinosaurs who are dying of old age, and get a notification for some wild Euoplocephalus. Sure, another Ankylosaur, why not? At least it's a good one. I also take the time, and more importantly, money, to finally actually research marine viewing galleries like I tried to do in the tuberculosining. To be clear, this was a complete mistake. There's no reason to actually research these. The viewing galleries and platforms will get your guests as much viewing space as they need. The only thing I'm actually doing here is increasing my thrill seeker rating, which I could easily do through a tour of some kind. Basically, I just threw $4 million down the drain. Don't do this if you want to try this challenge, kids. Same with the aviary viewing gallery. Yeah, see how I'm flat-ass broke now in the middle of this storm, so I need to take the same picture of a bunch of Pseudoceratops over and over again just to stay afloat? This is just as much a tutorial for you as it is a challenge for me. I'm the George Mallory here putting my life on the line so all you Edmund Hillarys of the world can have a nice cushy path up to the top of Everest so you can add that to your photo album and show it off during family functions. And since I'm in this position, I'll say that the cushiest path possible is Shonisaurus pictures. That shit's easy and worth a small fortune. Photos in general are kind of lifesavers in this run, and so are my marine babies. I love them. Anyway, I set up a small pen for some new arrivals in the form of Monolophosaurus, and once they arrive, I also get a chance to revitalize the Stygimoloch population after the outbreak. I then get started on the surrounding guest area when another storm hits, of course. At least I can get some Maiasaura now. A lot of my Nodosaurus are dying of old age, but then I find a group of them ready to go to replace them. Such serendipity will not be commonplace in this challenge, unfortunately. My transport rating isn't doing so hot, so I put a few more tours in to jazz things up a bit. And then come to immediately regret that choice once I try to put these paths in. Why can't you be normal? It's fine. I get it working eventually. It's fine. I also put one of the Camarasaurus habitat for good measure, and the game's like, hey, you want that tour to be really spicy? Have a few more. Thanks, appreciate it. I then start work on an aviary since I found some pteranodons, and I really hoped there would be at least some JP3 pteranodons mixed in there, but nope, they're all the hideous Jurassic World ones. Yippee. Also, as soon as I get them, I get a notification for the one pterosaur they won't tolerate the presence of, despite the fact that they shared an enclosure in the first Jurassic World movie. I still don't get that. And because I've learned my lesson from last time, I put a viewing platform on the nearby hill so guests can get a good look at them, without me needing to spend another $4 million on the aviary viewing gallery research. And despite this being my least favorite pterosaur in the game, it's immediately followed up on by my favorite ceratopsian in the game, Styracosaurus. And even more lucky, even though they're both ceratopsians, this species actually gets along well with Pseudoceratops, so I can put them in the same enclosure and not have to build a whole new one. Works for me, I love this guy. And even though I am still picking up the pieces of old age, the game keeps throwing me some good picks with even more Utahraptor. I will never complain about that. But god, old age is just causing these poor bastards to drop like flies. I just feel bad. If they're actually adding breeding dinosaurs in the third game, and it allows me to avoid the death spiral, then hell, I'm all for its inclusion. Also, as if our lagoons weren't carrying hard enough, now we have some Nothosaurs to work with on top of that. Sounds good to me. Things are pretty peaceful at the moment. I expand the Monolophosaurus population a bit, and also get some guest attraction research done, which will end up being incredibly important down the road. I use it at the moment to slap down an innovation center, which is a great bump to my park's appeal rating, and a huge draw to the back area of the park where the carnivores live. Just as yet another storm hits, I get a notification that I can get another one of my favorite dinosaur species in the game, the Australopithecus, and I'm all in on that. Send him right over. While the storm wasn't incredibly damaging, my funds are basically drained after it, which makes providing for my new arrivals a bit of a headache. While driving around to take photos to bump up my funds so my Australopithecus don't die of dehydration, we managed to hit 3.5 stars. That much closer to our goal. All the recent expansions of my park have also left my rangers spread pretty thin, so I throw in another ranger station to ease my workload a bit. This will be especially helpful for cleaning up after all the rampant storms. I find some Segisaurus, and yeah, this one is on me. I kinda forgot how the dinosaur AI worked for a little bit there. I could have sworn there was a patch that made it so carnivores wouldn't hunt the small scavengers as long as they liked each other and the carnivore wasn't especially hungry, but I guess that's not the case. My bad, little Segisaurus dudes. Well, at the very least, some Ichthyosaurus will more than make up for this particular loss. They'll get along great with their big Shonisaurus cousins. But unfortunately, the deaths just keep rolling in. I'm worried I won't be able to replace all these in time before population issues start to arise, which is beginning to cause me some stress. On the subject of stress, turns out the addition of the Ichthyosaurus on top of the Nothosaurs may have been a bit too much for the Shonisaurus. They're starting to feel a bit crowded. So I have to do some serious remodeling around the area to make room for another lagoon section. And during this process, I have another wave of deaths, including my last Plesiosaurus. It takes a very long time due to the reptiles themselves blocking the construction site, but eventually I managed to squeeze in that extra piece, and with that and the death of the Plesiosaurus, that seems to do the trick in giving the Shonisaurus enough space to be happy. The death rate is continuing to climb though. I had to turn down a couple of capture opportunities to make sure my Shonies were good, and the Muttaburrasaurus enclosure is looking a lot more sparse since I haven't been able to refill it lately. This is starting to turn into a body collection simulator, but the game seems to know how to make this work out in my favor, with more Kronosaurus. My one Kronosaurus is already my star attraction. If I can get even more, I'm sitting pretty. I also get some Deinonychus for a small enclosure off to the side of the Monolophosaurus that doubles as a transportation station. Ordinarily I wouldn't use these little freaks, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. It wasn't. Speaking of things that weren't a good idea, apparently this space I have here is not only too small for 4 Kronosaurus, it's too small for even 2. So they're all extremely unhappy with this situation, they're getting sick, their health is going down, and I've crammed this all into such a small space that expanding the lagoon is a challenge in its own right. And even when I do manage it, they're still not happy. I'll cut a long and tragic story short and say that a storm and several notifications later, by the end of it I was back at square one with a single living Kronosaurus. I'm still mad about it to this day. Well, with or without those Kronosaurus, I need to keep expanding. Most of what I'm getting are offers for species I already have, which is nice since I need to replace all the ones that are dying off, but it's not helpful towards my greater goals. A group of Maiasaura helps a bit, but not much. These aren't exactly centerpiece dinosaurs here. Some more Australopithecus make me happy, but they arrive right as another storm rolls in, so not so great timing. The new arrivals do well enough in the storm, but the Deinonychus are not doing well. Their population size is small enough that once something else comes along to reduce their comfort even more, like a storm, they start going ballistic. I just barely managed to contain this one before things go south fast. During the calm, I take the time to optimize my scientists a bit more. I want as few redundancies and as little bloat as possible so I can bring in the most money. But calm gives way to tragedy. Unfortunately, my only Kronosaurus to survive was my oldest one, and it's just passed away. I am stagnating on species right now, and my star attraction has just died on me. This is really bad. I offset the loss as much as I can with the addition of more amenities, but I need something to fill that big empty lagoon fast. And the bad news just keeps coming as now my Shonisaurus are starting to die off. I am scrambling for species right now, but I'm just drowning in nothing but Sauropelta and Torosaurus. And hey, I like those species, but I need a little something else to work with here, guys. The arrival of a pack of Herrerasaurus does a little bit to ease my concerns, but this is a band-aid solution when my park is gushing blood. But I finally get the boost I need. Archelon. Those'll do the trick. And sure, on the surface, some big turtles might not seem as impressive as a giant pliosaur, but they actually managed to bring us out of the post-Kronosaurus death financial slump. And I've never been happier to get a repeat species, as I'm graciously provided with even more Archelon to fill up the enclosure. 3 times. Don't mind if I fucking do. And some Nothosaurus for the other lagoon. Sure, why not? And just to wrap up God making up for my own mistakes of killing all my Kronosaurus, here's some Elasmosaurus too. Well, can't exactly look at gift plesiosaur on its horrible fucked up face, can I? I get a few more repeat species, and I'm really just trying to optimize everything currently in my park, as I'm waiting for more big species to come in for me to meaningfully expand with. By this point, I've managed to hit 4 stars, so I know I'm on the way to getting some new species, but I'm still waiting in the pool of all the current species while I do so. And that means a lot of Sauropelta. I don't know why they kept showing up in particular. Something else that shows up is Jailopterus, and I'm definitely not saying no to my favorite little funny bats. I also built a tour through some of the existing infrastructure to help with the park's transport rating, which let me tell you was not easy. Always plan your tours out ahead of time, kids. That's what my pa always told me. My pa also told me not to let the Monolophosaurus out after a storm, but I couldn't exactly stop them from busting out and running through my guests like bowling pins. At least my highly skilled ranger team is on the task. Jesus Christ. Not having learned my lesson from any of the other small carnivores I put in my park, I decided to get some Atrociraptors. I'm really struggling for anything that'll let me expand the park and put down new attractions and amenities for more income, for more rating. Listen, I'll take what I can get. That goes for dinosaurs and real estate. I'm really struggling for any space to put new buildings in. Luckily, I don't have to look too far for an enclosure to put some Parasaurolophus in. They'll fit just fine in the Nasutoceratops pen. It's at this point where I realize that maybe I should be artificially spreading these species out over multiple enclosures instead of cramming as many as I can into every single one, so that way I can sell more amenities over a wider area of the park. I say at this point because it's at this point in writing the script where I realized this, not in the playthrough itself, so I keep messing up. Well, the monkey's paw gives me my wish of new species to expand the park with, by giving me my least favorite species in the game, the Liopleurodon. Fine. You win this round, you crocodile-looking fuck! Also, apparently enough of them have died of old age that my Australovenator are starting to get lonely enough to try and break out and make new friends outside of their enclosure. They're about as good at making friends as my rangers are at hitting a stationary target. However, God was apparently watching this whole thing and decided to just give me some more Australovenator. Okay, cool. Thanks, God. You're welcome. Then it's time to really get things moving, as I get some Iguanodon next. Not only is this one of my favorite species in the game, it's the perfect excuse to start a big new herbivore enclosure at the other end of the park. And I find a great new companion for my Iguanodon in the form of Ankylosaurus. So, yes, I'm pretty sure that's every single Ankylosaur species in the game. All these new additions are great for my rating, and I managed to bump it up to 4.7 stars. I'm right around the corner from my goal. Oh no, the tuberculosis, it's getting to me! After another storm, the Monolophosaurus make it very clear they're no longer happy here with only 2 of them. So I make the tough call to sell them off, and replace them with another mono-crested dinosaur. Don't be as annoying as those guys, Proceratosaurus. After getting even more Iguanodon and Archelon, which just makes my ratings even better, I find some more San Diegan swimmy boys in the form of some Nothosaurus, and fill out the old empty Deinonychus enclosure with a Ceratosaurus. Yeah, I sold them, they were being a pain in the ass too. But now I'm feeling kind of stuck in a slump. It feels like I have nowhere left to go, but I'm stuck at 4.9 stars or lower. I just can't seem to get that last star. Every time it feels like I'm making progress, a storm hits and sends me into a recovery period, then a dinosaur dies, then I have to get whatever replacements I can get, then another storm hits, repeat. All my amenities are good, I have enough hotels, bathrooms, shelters, all that shit. I just need more appeal rating. And I'm at an especially bad point in the run for that because my dinosaurs just keep dying of old age. My park is just turning into a dog food factory at this point. I actually had to stop for the day and sleep on it for the night to figure out what strategy would even work at this point. I had been playing for about 8 hours straight, so my head wasn't in the best place for actually thinking, but I'm able to come up with a good strategy by the time I boot up the game the next day. I decided to load up a save from about an hour ago before a lot of the deaths started rolling in, put down a bunch of guest attractions all right next to each other since the guests don't really care where they are, just that they exist, and their existence will boost my park's appeal and draw people to their nearby amenities. Then I take a bunch of photos so I can build up a sizable chunk of money and spend that on research to get more types of guest attractions since I've used up all the ones I can, including the Innovation Center. Then, after one final short and honestly pretty harmless storm, the research is complete and I convert all the attractions into different types to maximize their appeal output. Even adding a few more in honestly pretty haphazard locations. Like, yes, I would like to play mini golf right next to the ACU helicopter. Bonus points if you hit the propeller blades, God knows you'll have better aim than the actual operatives. Then, I systematically go through every single amenity I currently have, optimize them as much as humanly possible, and that does it. 5 stars on the hardest difficulty without a single cloned dinosaur. I did it. I kind of wish it was a bit more bombastic than that, like I got a T-Rex or a Mosasaurus and that's what tips me over the edge, but frankly, I'm just happy I was able to beat it at all, and wasn't stuck in the death spiral for the next several hours. I actually kind of like that I was encouraged to use a lot of species that I ordinarily wouldn't have, or at the very least that I wouldn't have considered to the same degree. As much as I love Archelon and Iguanodon, I never thought they'd be the big star attractions at a park I built. But I'm glad they are. I'm not exactly the best at challenge mode, and I think this video has demonstrated that quite well, but I'm still very happy with myself. Maybe not with the state of the park itself, but hey, function over form. It works. Would have been a lot easier if I didn't have to deal with those damn mountains, but whatever. Building pretty parks is what the sandbox mode mega parks are for, and I've started a new one of those while using mods for the game, and something tells me this is going to take a while to make. I spent about 4 hours on the entrance alone, so that should tell you something. If you want to see the progress on that park before I inevitably make it into a video like my last mega park, then make sure to tune into my streams for that series. Oh dude, that's fucking sick. Goes around the statue formation, whirls around the fountain. Oh shit, dude, that's fucking sick. Oh, my genius, sometimes it's frightening. This challenge was a lot of fun. My only wish is that there was a setting for the black market dinosaurs you could buy from the Malta DLC in challenge mode. That would have made this a lot easier. Wait, there is a setting for that? Oh. Oh.